Hi, I'm Robert. Welcome to another edition of the High Desert Ranch channel. Don't go anywhere. I'm sure you're joining for the first time. I have some awesome news to talk to you about and some things to share that's been on my mind. And if you're not new to the channel, welcome back. And we will get started, I promise, if Phineas allows me to. We will talk about some things about the true cost of homesteading and even small ranching and small farming. So here we go. Join me for another edition on the High Desert Ranch and Homestead channel. All right, so hopefully the cat isn't too much of a distraction, but he might make it a little bit for me, so you might see a different side of me than you normally do, but I just wanted to get something off my chest, and it is this. And one of the main reasons why I started this YouTube channel, and that is sorry, I'm just I don't know if it's a lack of sleep, and then I know we don't have a supporting cast here in these videos, but so excuse me for that. However, I want to tell you one of the main reasons why I got started with the YouTube channel, and that is because I'm a fifth generation farmer, rancher, whatever you want to call it, and I am, as you might know if you haven't seen the introduction video, I am trying to rebuild the family farm ranch that has kind of just gone to the wayside, and it is definitely filled with its challenges. And as I've watched a lot of YouTube videos and things of that nature, and especially since 2020, the whole COVID scenario, I think a lot of people have been awakened to the fact that you can't depend on the world as we've known it as far as supply chain, growing food, and there just seems to be this great reawakening back to the old ways, the homesteading ways, whatever you want to call it. And so I just have a few questions for people and trying to set some realistic expectations, because I don't want to discourage people, but just to know that that it's not all the fairy tales and the rainbows and unicorns. And so there's 5 things that I want to talk about, and I'll try and be as fast as possible. And if you stick to the very bitter end, I will even have a link to a video. It's going to be here in the top, so look for that. As far as a very awesome tool that I think will be helpful. Again, I do this channel because I want to help people. I'm small, I'm not big like some of these other people, and so I do this for you guys. Believe me, if anyone knows me, my days are busy from sun up to sundown, and even beyond sundown. It's just, life is busy. I do these videos when I can. As you can see, this is my studio. Wherever I have a moment and I'm thinking about something, I've got the time. So first question is that I pose to you is, what do you want to do? A lot of people have different passions, different likes. And so whether that be they just want to grow like a big garden, they want to go and get a an acre's worth of land to grow some as much vegetables and produce as they can. That's great. Or they want to do some animals. They want to do goats. They want to do sheep. They want to do cows, things of that nature. That's fine. My only recommendation when it comes to this question is, whatever it is you want to do some research first, like this channel, like and subscribe. And I promise I'll do my best to point you in the right direction. Definitely know your sources. They always say, you can trust whatever it is you read, you know what I mean, as long as it's from a good source. Well, how do you know what that source is true? Because again, one of the reasons why I did this channel is because I saw a lot of the same information being put out there time and time again, and a lot of it's not correct or very good information. And so and then people get in a real big bind when they sell everything and go trying to start their own homestead and farming. So knowing what you want to do is very important, doing some research on it. And then secondly is, what can you do? And a lot of that comes down to, again, the energy, the space that you have, and the area, even the water, depending on where you live, water can be a big deal, and just time too. These things take a lot of time, whether it's raising a garden, some crops, raising animals. You've got to be able to know what your limits are and those expectations. 3 is how much money do you have on hand, and then how much money you're going to need. Depending on what you do, things cost a lot of money. And I know that kind of sounds dumb, but you need to have a plan, because the input costs are going to kill you. My grandpa always preached input costs, and anyone who knew him, he made things stretch. He was a child of the Great Depression, and he lived till into his 90s. And so he knew what it was like to make do or do without, and that is something that I recommend for... Denise just wants to steal the show. That's what I recommend you do, because I see way too many people that they sell everything. They want to get started on their little homestead, and then they realize just how expensive it is, or they buy an animal and then they're trying to get rid of it, or they buy an animal not thinking all the work that's involved or the feed that's involved, that it doesn't work with their schedule. So and just the money too. You need to factor out the money, because something that really bothers me is when I see these YouTube channels. They're saying you can make X amount of dollars, 6 figures off of raising hogs on just a very, very small homestead or very, very small operation. I challenge those same channels to show me exactly, open up their books, to show me just exactly how they're making 6 figures net profit. I'm not talking about gross, but I'm talking about net profit. And the thing that bothers me about that is, A, it's clickbait, and 2 is you get it so people get their hopes up. They have no idea what goes into it, and they sell everything. They get their 10 acres out in the country, and then within a year or two, or even less, depending on what their situation is, they've bought all these things. They've bought really expensive infrastructure, tractors, side-by-sides, a truck, a 32-foot stock trailer, and they have no money. And then they realize that there's not a lot of money to be made in hogs, or there's not a lot of money to be made in sheep or cows or whatever it may be. And so that's what bothers me, and that's why I started this YouTube channel. And so because I'll be honest with you folks, I'm not flashy. I tell it to you straight up. This is, like I say, this is where I film my things whenever I can. I have my truck talks. I didn't want this to be a truck talk, even though she's parked just on the other side of this wall. It's the input cost. If that's one thing I'm going to hammer, and that's part of the thing that I have. If you guys really want it, I want to see it down in the comments that you want this little helpful livestock template, because I think it will be a lifesaver and a game changer for people to really open up their eyes just to see how much money it is to do a farm, a small farm, or a small homestead, and that it isn't going to make the 6 figures like some of these other YouTube channels profess. And the only way they're making 6 figures is because they either have a lot of subscribers and they're getting a lot of viewership from their videos, or they have a secondary job. They have their primary source of income. It's their day job. As long as there's them bills that need to be paid, and you have a small farm or a homestead, don't quit your day job, because it's not like it's cracked up to be. And for some of these guys, it's all about their products and their books and their literature they sell. So please be aware of that. And that's what bothers me, again, is that people that have no idea where their food comes from, but then they read some of this stuff and they think, I'm going to go buy a farm or this, and they put everything into it. And then, like I say, a year later, it's more than they can handle. They're trying to give away animals because they're starving, or they're malnourished, they're dying, and they can't figure out why. And it's because of all these promises, these pipe dreams, these fairy tales that they've read or seen on YouTube. And so that brings me to my final thing, and that is to plan ahead, whether it be your garden, with livestock. You need to understand that crops takes a few months once you plant them into the ground, and that I really get a kick out of all this stuff. Grow everything you need to eat on a 1/4 acre. Maybe if you're by yourself and you can just maximize every square inch to where But if you've got a family, you have mouths to feed, you've got a family of 4 or 5, you need to understand that you're going to need more than a quarter acre. You're going to need at least a few, at bare minimum. I mean, if you've ever tried to grow your own wheat for your bread, just think about how much wheat how much wheat you need to grow just to even provide like the bread your bread needs, or pasta, or wherever it may be. As far as a fruit orchard, if you need to grow beans, potatoes, tomatoes, whatever it may be, you need to understand. Some of the old timers, I know my grandma, she did her very best, but they're still having to buy from the grocery store from time to time. And it was about on an acre. But in talking to some of the old timers that are a few and far between now, it's right around 3 acres, 3 to 4 acres is what they can agree to, as far as if you want to be self-sufficient. And of course, that's supplementing with some meat, whether it be chicken, pork, and beef. So you need to plan ahead for that for your garden, because I always get a kick. There's some people that say, you know, they're quote homesteaders, but they're eating out several times a week. But if you want to be serious about it, 3 square meals a day times 365 days a year, that's a lot of meals, and that's a lot of food. And so you need to keep that in mind if you're going to go that route. And that leads me to the livestock portion too. You're looking, if you're going to slaughter a 1,200 pound steer, you're going to get anywhere from 4, possibly up to 500 pounds of usable meat off that steer. 250 pound hog, you're going to have right around 140, 150 pounds. And with a chicken, you're going to get a couple pounds depending on your chicken. And so, you know, that's something too. And you just got to understand that it takes a long time to raise that animal. With a hog, it's you're going to be looking at 4 or 5 months. With a cow, especially, it's going to be anywhere from 12 months all the way up to 2 years, depending on what you're doing and when you buy that cow. If you're raising it from calf, all the way up to slaughter. If you're going to go grass-fed, you're looking at closer to 2 years. If you're doing finishing off grain, you're looking right around 18 months, 12 to 18 months. So, and then storage too. Whether you're doing a garden or your livestock, you got to figure out a way to store that usable vegetables or meat, whether it be canning, bottling, putting it in like a root cellar, which I'll do. I'll eventually get into some of those videos. Phineas is starting to get a little stimulated. Or if you've got to have some freezer space. So that's just something to keep in mind. And the processing is also something as well too, that because of this, everyone's trying to get back into this game and this homesteading kind of thing, which is great. Processors, unfortunately, mom and dad have been dying or handing their business off to their children, and the shop just shutters. And so you have it to where there's not a lot of processors, and the waits are very long, and the slots are very limited, and they fill up fast. So before you go out and buy that hog or that steer that's ready to be slaughtered, whether it's at the county fair or the stockyard, the auction house, make sure that you've got something lined up as far as a processor. You're going to be stuck with an animal that you can't do anything with, and it's just going to end up start costing you a lot of money, kind of a thing. So one thing that is, if I can give you some advice, is when you watch some of these YouTube channels, with the exception of mine, of course, is when you're watching these things and they're saying all these wonderful promises and this and that, is don't be watching with your eyes squinted, because then it definitely looks achievable. But watch it with both eyes wide open and think about some of these things, because if they're telling you could make $188,000, sorry, a little too specific, when you can make 6 figures off of whatever livestock it is on a very, 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 very small scale operation, just think, if it's that good, why isn't everybody doing it? And it could be because it's a lot of work, but more than likely or not, it's because it just isn't possible. And I'll put out some more videos, and if I get enough comments telling me to do this other template, basically it's my livestock template that I've come up with, I think would be really helpful. Let me know, and I'll show you. I'll run these numbers, and I would love to, again, it's my challenge to some of these folks that think that they can make X amount of dollars in the real world, not just on paper, But in the real world, because there might be a very, very small niche market where they can do that. But again, if that's kind of this like an addendum, is know your market, but know yourself and know your limitations. So you know, I know that your time is important, my time is important, and money can be tight for a lot of people. And even if it isn't, it can be very draining very fast. I've seen a lot of even large YouTube channels with a lot of subscribers, and they have a really good size operation. They're feeling the crunch and they are feeling the pinch, and they're having to make some very hard decisions. And so it's okay if you have to start out small. Don't compare yourself to others. It's okay, again, to make do or do without. Just knowing that just because that person has a brand new truck or a brand new tractor or all the nice implement or equipment and the new brand new 32-foot stock trailer, just know that all costs money. And when you really realistically look at the bottom line, they will never see money. That's an expensive hobby. Something that, which that's fine if they've committed their money to go to something like that instead of vacationing or gambling or going on cruises, whatnot. That's up to them. But just understand that there's some deceptive people out there, and I hope not to be that way. So please, if you found this video interesting, please share with others, and know that I'm check out some of my other content here. I hope it helps, and I hope to be doing some more hog and cow videos. I'm going to be moving forward with some of that stuff this year, especially with the hogs. So I've already done a hog video. I think it's one of the best out there, of course, right? But again, I'm trying to put out the honest information for you guys. I'm not doing the fancy camera angles. What you see is what you see, and how you see it is how it is. I'm not cleaning it up for YouTube. And so I really appreciate you getting the message out there. As a side note, we finally got our precipitation after approximately 51 days. So I hope you enjoyed my 2 cents. We'll play on words. And I hope you have a good night, and thanks for coming along. And I hope to see you again here on the High Desert Ranch.